You've walked into a store, your eyes landed on a piece, and your heart raced. It was exactly what you were looking for. Color, the fit, the style, all perfect. The kind of piece you imagine wearing to that dinner, that event, that ordinary Tuesday when you just want to feel like yourself. Then you flipped the tag. And it didn't have your size. That moment lasts only a second. But the weight of it stays much longer. That feeling has a name, even if no one talks about it. It's a mix of frustration and shame that most women swallow in silence, as if it were their fault for existing in the size they exist. As if the body were the problem and not the system that decided somewhere along the way that only certain bodies were worth designing for. And what happens next is almost automatic. The mind starts working against you. That subtle thought creeping in, if I were different, I could wear this. As if beauty were a reward for fitting into a predetermined mold. As if the clothes were the standard and your body was simply failing to meet it. You put the hanger back. Maybe a little too quickly. Maybe with a practiced casualness that took years to develop. That learned indifference that protects you from feeling the full sting of it. You move on to the next rack. You tell yourself it doesn't matter. And in that small, quiet moment, something chips away. The silent mathematics of exclusion. Here's what most people don't see. This isn't a one-time experience. It's a pattern. A recurring equation that plays out in fitting rooms, on websites, in the carefully curated windows of stores that display one version of a woman and silently close the door on everyone else. Women in larger bodies have learned to do mental math before they even enter a store. Do they carry my size? Will the XL here actually fit, or is it a vanity XL made for someone 2 sizes smaller than me? Should I even bother? That mental calculation is exhausting. And it happens before a single item is touched. The exclusion isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the absence of a section. Sometimes it's the extended sizes tucked in the back, away from the main floor, as if those clothes and the women who wear them are an afterthought. Sometimes it's a brand that adds a plus-size line but offers only 3 options, all in dark colors, all designed to minimize rather than celebrate. The message is always the same, just delivered in different fonts. You are not who we had in mind when we made this. What the desire to feel beautiful actually is. Let me tell you something that perhaps no one has told you clearly. The desire to feel beautiful has no size. It is the same in every body. It doesn't arrive only after you've lost 20 pounds or finally toned your arms or learned to love your stomach. It arrives the moment you're human. It's been with you since you were a little girl spinning in a dress that made you feel like magic. That desire isn't shallow. It isn't vanity. It is one of the most deeply human things there is, the wish to move through the world feeling like yourself, feeling seen, feeling that what's on the outside has some relationship to who you are on the inside. Clothes are one of the few tools we have to tell that story every single day. And the pain of not being considered in that story? That's equally human, equally valid, equally real, no matter what size it lives in. What fashion did for a long time was teach women that certain bodies deserve aesthetics and others deserve conformity. That some can choose cut, color, silhouette, trend, and others are simply grateful for what fits. That some women get to express themselves through clothing, and others get to cover themselves with it. That is not a neutral design choice. That is a message. And messages, repeated often enough, become beliefs. What it builds inside you over time. The worst effect of this isn't the frustration in the store. That moment stings, yes, but it passes. What doesn't pass as easily is what accumulates. It's the woman who stops trying on clothes altogether. Who does all her shopping online alone in the privacy of her home because the fitting room stopped feeling safe somewhere around the 3rd time a size that should have fit simply didn't. Who returns packages without telling anyone what she was hoping for when she ordered them. It's the woman who walks into a boutique and preemptively announces, almost apologetically, that she won't find anything in her size. Not because she's certain, but because experience has taught her that expectation management is a form of self-protection. It's the woman who starts dressing to disappear instead of dressing to arrive. who reaches for the same black top again not because she loves it but because it's safe, who watches other women getting dressed with a freedom she doesn't quite feel she has access to, who has quietly convinced herself that bold colors, interesting cuts, and statement pieces are for other women. Women whose bodies have earned that kind of attention. This is not a small thing. This is years of small rejections, from stores, from brands, from a cultural narrative about which bodies are decorative and which are merely functional, crystallizing into a set of beliefs about what she deserves, about how much space she's allowed to take up, about whether her wanting to look beautiful is even a reasonable thing to want. This isn't frescura, as we say in Portuguese. It isn't sensitivity or exaggeration. It is a real, documented psychological weight that the fashion industry placed on certain women's shoulders and then told them to carry quietly. The permission you were never officially given. Here is what I want to say to you, and I want to say it plainly without conditions attached. You do not need to love every inch of your body every day to have the right to dress well. You don't need to be at peace with the mirror. You don't need to have reached a goal weight, completed a transformation, or arrived at some moment of radical self-acceptance before you're allowed to want beautiful things. You are not required to earn aesthetic pleasure through suffering or discipline or shrinking. The desire to wear something that makes you feel alive is not a reward for a body that has performed correctly. It is simply yours. It has always been yours. You don't need to be in the middle of a body-positive journey. You don't need to post about it or celebrate it or even fully understand it yet. You're allowed to feel frustrated and still want more. You're allowed to have complicated feelings about your body and still walk into a store believing you deserve options. And you're allowed to be angry. Actually, genuinely angry, not at yourself, but at an industry that spent decades deciding you weren't worth the fabric. That anger is not bitterness. That anger is clarity. What it looks like when things change. When a woman who spent years dressing to hide finally finds a piece that fits, really fits in a way that was designed with her body in mind, something shifts. Not in some dramatic, cinematic way. Quietly. In the way she stands in front of the mirror for a second longer. In the way she reaches for it again the following week. In the way something small and protected inside her decides tentatively to try again. That is what inclusion actually does. Not just representation for the sake of optics, but the practical, physical experience of walking into a space and finding something made for you. Something that says without words, we thought of you. You were part of the picture. That experience changes how women move through the world. What they believe they're allowed to want. What they teach their daughters about taking up space. You just need to exist. And existing in this body at this size on this ordinary day is already reason enough. Not reason enough to settle. Reason enough to expect more.